Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for January 30th, 2018. Just a note to everyone, this is a rescheduled meeting from January 16th, where the meeting was canceled due to the inclement weather conditions at that time. So we will move forward with that. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the roll.
Director Hendricks, Director Richardson, Director Peck, Director Hines,
Present.
Director Wright,
Here.
Director Wyrick, Director Campuris,
Present.
Director Fortson,
Here.
Director Adcock, Vice Mayor Webb, Mayor Stodler.
Here. Let me call on Director Lance Hines for our invocation, please.
Please bow your heads. Dear God, Lord and Savior, thank you for letting us be here today to conduct the business of the great city of Little Rock. Please watch out for all of our employees that are out serving us as citizens every day, our police, fire, public works, parks, and even those who don't get out and interface with us as much that are working for us hard every day. Please let us seek your wisdom in all that we decide tonight. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. If you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let me first call on City Director Dean Campuris for a point of personal privilege.
Mayor, I appreciate you talking at the last meeting about Representative Hill coming to talk to us and what's going on in the Supreme Court. And in at least our state, I think we have been the biggest advocate for the internet sales tax and trying to make a fair representation. And I would like us to consider, and I think it's a tight time frame, according to Tom, I just asked him, if we file or ask Tom to file along with other municipalities in the state an amicus brief to the Supreme Court. There will be lots of legal scholars that will present the argument one way or another. And what I'd like Tom and other cities that he can recruit very quickly to do is to give specific examples of what happens in this city. If we had the extra $3 million, what it would mean to parks and recreation and police and things like that. My inclination is that there will be lots of legal scholars that enter into this. But if you get right down to what happens in a city of 200,000 and the problems we have and the potential we have to do better for our citizens, that might be some information that is not presented. So I'm not sure how we okay that, because I think it has to be in. Tom just told me walking in fairly soon. If we could okay that we move ahead with that and have Tom do that quickly.
I would second that.
Is there, I guess I'll take that as a motion and I'll take that as a second. All in favor of attempting to file an amicus brief before the U.S. Supreme Court on the internet sales tax issue indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed saying nay. Very well. I know that there were several amici briefs filed to the court to entertain consideration of the South Dakota case. I think I counted 23. Certainly the reality of what that money would mean to local communities would be very good. I know that the Municipal League has solicited resolutions from, I would dare say, hundreds of cities attempting to try and get the governor to place that on the agenda for the upcoming session. And the last word I heard is that there were no plans to put it on there, but certainly if we can get relief on it from the courts, then let's try and do that. And so, Tom, let us know how and if we can get that done. I'm certainly, the issue is to go forward with it. And I know the Municipal League would probably join in as well, and they may be able to help with that in terms of getting some information from some of the other cities on what the consequences of not having that money means. Okay.
Thank you.
Very well. We have one addition to the agenda, which is item M1. Is there any objection to adding this to the agenda?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay.
We have a
Madam
deferral.
Clerk, is there a deferral as well on item 14? Is there a motion to defer
Second.
item 14? A motion and a second. All in favor of deferring item 14 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying nay. It will be deferred. We can now move on to the grouped items. If, Madam Clerk, if you would read the agenda for the grouped items as well as Resolution M1.
You
Thank
mean the consent
Yeah,
agenda?
would you break these lights out?
Consent.
All right, go ahead. Well, I'm only on the grouped items for the resolutions. On the consent agenda, and I don't believe we don't have any cards for any of the consent agenda items. Okay, Madam Clerk, if you would go ahead and read the consent agenda as amended.
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the August 1st, 2017, August 15th, 2017, September 5th, 2017, September 19th, 2017, October 2nd, 2017, and the October 17th, 2017 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting, and for the purposes, a resolution to set February 6th, 2018 as the date of public hearing on the petition to abandon both a utility easement and a drainage easement for Lot 1, Canis Commercial Edition, in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into contract decrees for Boat Culture Technologies Incorporated in the amount of $5,515.44 for additional improvements to P Street from Pierce Street to Taylor Street, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a technology for public safety research partner contract with the University of Arkansas at Little Rock in an amount not to exceed $62,800 to aid in the investigation of shooting incidents within the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, for services as a research partner for the 2017 Technology Innovation for Public Safety Grant, and for the purposes, a resolution to accept title to property donated to the city of Little Rock by quitclaim deed to be used for neighborhood revitalization programs, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Rex White Plumbing LLC to provide plumbing repairs on an as-needed basis, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with Royal Overhead Door Incorporated on an as-needed basis, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with Morris Beck Construction Services Incorporated in amount not to exceed $61,000 to perform an interior remodel of the existing education building at the Little Rock Zoo, and for the purposes, a resolution to certify local government endorsement of North Little Rock Energy Logistics LLC located at 10,000 Industrial Harbor Drive, Little Rock, Arkansas, to participate in the Arkansas Tax Facts Program is authorized by Arkansas Code Section 15-4-2706D of the Consolidated Incentive Act of 2003, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with one organization to provide community-based intervention services, and for the purposes, a resolution to authorize the city manager to enter into contract with Adware and Specialty of Texas Incorporated in the amount of $54,774.84 for the purchase of the 2018 Little Rock Marathon participant and volunteer shirts, and for other purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. I do have a couple of directors who wish to ask questions. Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Bruce, item number 10, how are these intervention services different from what we're currently providing?
Let me ask Ms. Doucette, our Director of Community Programs, to come forward. While they're similar, there are some unique aspects. Dana?
Thank you, Board, Mayor, Bruce, Tom, and Director Richardson.
Pull that microphone down if you would. Thank you. Thank you, Dana.
As you know, are you referring to the street team that we have now, and you're wondering how this is different from the street team operation, or something different?
Just current program, just says intervention services. We have gang intervention program, we have a crisis intervention team, we have a number of youth development programs. So how does this differ from what we're currently providing?
What we're doing with this particular opportunity more than anything is coordinating all of those teams together, because right now you have the different programs. Yes, you do, but they're individual programs. What this particular program does is three things. One is it's placing the intervention program, if you will, directly on the streets. So they will have people who are actively walking around on the streets to find our disconnected youth and make sure that they're receiving the services that they need, because many of those youth aren't in one of our programs. The other thing is that they're providing training for our different programs and directly for those youth, as well as for our YIP coordinators, as well as for the 12 to 17-year-old programs, because our hope is that the students that we might find on the street would then go into one of our programs. But if they don't, we have training for those that don't go into a program, as well as for those that do go into a program. Because as you might be familiar, especially with our 12 to 17-year-old programs, they would need additional information on potentially how to deal with those students. And then the third thing is that it's coordinating all of those efforts together. So where there might be a program in the East End and another program in Southwest, they may or may not be talking to each other because they're different executive directors, they have their own programs, they're doing their own type of activities, but we're trying to make sure that they are talking to each other and that they are working together so that we can all come together under one strategy, if you will. So there's some strategy building in here as well to develop that for us, so we're going forward in a unified effort.
Well, I mean, part of programming in the past, it involved quarterly, if not monthly, meetings to do the information exchange, programmatic exchange, to do some of the crisis response team coordinating. And it seems to me like I think someone asked for a report or a breakout on this item, and we got a memo in a pony a couple of weeks ago, and the way it described the provision of services, it seemed like it was a crisis response team training. And you made reference to a couple of training models, but where are these models coming from? Are they best practice? Are they research-based training models that we're using?
Yes, the contract that we have, the person that, one of the main trainers, if you will, would be Kareem Moody, and so he definitely has the background of helping with this from historically, as well as academically, as well as real world, if you will. So he's one of the main trainers, along with Marcus Montgomery, who would also provide this type of information.
Yeah, I know both of them, and they're excellent workers. But I think to me it seems like there's it's disjointed when we're talking about coordinating or putting together a crisis response team to go out and respond to hot areas in our community, specific hotspots that are based on specific incidents that sometimes grow into more incidents based on one single incident. It seems to me like there's no coordination of our crisis response team out in the community. And we just had a 17-year-old shot the other night. We had a 12-year-old arrested for homicide. And it seems to me like some of those young men or women should be in our program, and it doesn't seem like we have that kind of coordination of our response to specific incidents in our community, even identification of the participants of those incidents.
And that is what this is doing. That's exactly what this, the types of things that this contractor would help us to coordinate.
And who would do the monitoring and evaluation? What kind of evaluation will we do on this programming? Because I think sometimes, so often we hear from up here that we want to make sure what we're doing is working. So would it be an independent evaluation, independent monitoring or assessment, or would they come in-house?
It's going to be a little bit of both, because as you know, we have our current monitor that will make sure that the contractual agreements are taken care of, that they've put into their proposal. But yes, we actually are working now on a new RFQ to help with that data piece, which is part of our youth master plan. that would begin looking at that type of information, and yes, that would be external.
I like that, but I mean, meeting contractual agreements doesn't necessarily equate effectiveness in the community in terms of what you're doing or trying to do or attempting to do. And I think there's a critical moment in our community right now. It seems to me like we need to make sure that what we're doing is going to have the greatest impact. It's going to be research-based. It's going to be based on best practices, not politics. And I think that part of what we need to make sure we're doing is having the correct way to reach as many disconnected adults and youth that you just referenced a minute ago as possible, because those individuals seem to be the source of a lot of the criminal activity in our community.
I agree with you, which is one reason why we spent so much time making sure that we included all of that type of conversation when we started negotiating and looking at who we would want to have this type of contract.
So the in-house evaluation would take care of the monitoring and contractual agreements. How are we going to measure or monitor or evaluate the effectiveness of the programming that we're implementing?
We'll be working on that with the Little Rock Police Department and some of our other partners. And that'll be, in fact, we've already started that with a quality of life team, if you will, where we're coordinating with Parks and Recreation, with housing and neighborhood programs, with Little Rock Police Department and our department, to make sure that we're all working together, talking together, collecting the correct type of data so that we can answer some of those questions.
And the hours of availability for these crisis team members, what will they be?
Say that again?
The hours of availability, because when
Oh,
a
it's
crisis don't
24
happen
hour, yeah.
between 9 to 5.
24 hours.
So it will be 24 hours. And they'll be
24
on
hours.
call, and Kareem will be the person who will be the contact person who reach out to these individuals to coordinate them and get them involved. Because crisis doesn't happen between 9 and 5, just 9 to 5.
He will be the yeah, can I call him to
Sure.
talk about how he has put this together, if that's all right? Yeah.
To all you directors, Mr. Mayor, everybody. To your point,
Well, please, for the record, go ahead and identify yourself.
my name's Kareem Moody.
Thank you.
And I'd like to just kind of speak to specifically, just kind of the strategy. And it's kind of founded in just the years of work that I've done with YIP, Pulaski Tech, Park, and now on the street. Specifically with these young men that are, have been, there's 3-4 murders now. 2 of them are guys that were involved in the project that we've been doing already. And, that kind of speaks to just kind of where these guys are on the street. Now, they live in these communities already. So what I've been able to do is engage guys that are already working in the community. And the concept for us is trying to connect those people to the resources that are out here. So it really does kind of go to, for one, being able to touch and engage people that aren't normally at the table and empower them to work in their communities to bring those young people out. And so just like we know, our target is 100 hard-to-reach young people, and we want to get them into school, job, start a business, or join the military. So those are the outcomes that we're going. So at the end of the year, you can look at 100 young people that we've identified. I spoke to Mr. Poore yesterday at the Little Rock School, at the superintendent, about, getting into the schools and getting with those guys from Hamilton. Because we did this. We met, a majority of those guys at Hamilton over the course of the last few years, and of those guys, those are the ones that are coming up dead. And so, I think we got a pretty good handle on where they are. There's some gentlemen in here right now that can speak to the guys that are dying now. They know why they're dying. They know why the conflicts are happening. They kind of have a pretty good handle on that part of it. But the problem becomes they're not resourced. They're not connected to you folks. And so what I'm doing is kind of standing in the middle and saying, hey, I know the people over here. I know the people over here, connecting the dots, so they have an opportunity to come out of those East End or wherever, those challenges are happening, and plugged in the resources that are really going to make an impact.
Well, thank you, Kareem. You made reference to Hamilton. Will the interventions or recruitment be street-based recruitment, or
Everything, because some of those guys are in school. But yes, we're like, for instance, what I have is we've developed a concept called the Big Homie Project. And the Big Homies the Big Homies is a term of endearment that's used in the street to recognize guys that have compassion for other people. And so what we've tried to do is take that term and turn it into something real. So these guys are posted up in their neighborhoods, and they're building relationships with young people. But the challenge is they can get the young people to come and do stuff and go places. And so what we've been able to do over the course of the last couple of years is incentivize those people, to give them a reason to go out and plug into the young people in their community. So instead of them using those guys for nefarious purposes, now, they're incentivized to get them plugged into stuff that's already going on in the city. So for instance, I'll have a big homie, and he'll have, let's say the two young men, Antoine and Chris, let's take those two. Those are guys that they're able to come and plug them into stuff and try to get them connected to resources. So if a guy needs to go to school, the big homie can say, okay, this guy needs to go to school, but he doesn't know how to plug him in. But if he comes to me, I have another group of folks that the registrar, I'm working at Pulaski Tech last year, so I know people at Pulaski Tech or whatever school, I can connect the two of them and help them plug into that school. And so what I'm doing with the big homies is I'm helping them become resourced themselves. So my goal is to help their lives get better so that the people in their community has an opportunity to plug into that too.
So I would expect that the work that you're talking about doing is going to be within close proximity, if not overlap, the boundaries of some of my current programs. How we differentiate between what we're doing with this and what we're currently doing with funding for programming in the community?
So specifically talking YIP programs.
Yep, neighborhood based. I mean,
Well, let's just take the YIP programs. For instance, one of the things, I think YIP is the perfect model, but of course, there's a lot of things and a lot of reasons that, YIP is what it is, and I don't know people, because I met with those. I've had 2 meetings with those YIP coordinators, and one of the things that I see is those folks are really capable of doing the work. And they have, I think the budget is somewhere around $1 million, so I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater, but those folks are not motivated. They're not, in my opinion, they're not supported. And so I think it needs to be some way of getting those guys to the table and helping repurpose how YIP is supposed to happen. So I want to energize what they're doing. I want to bring other people to the table to help those YIP coordinators. I think YIP coordinators to be life coaches. And each one of those life coaches should be able to put together a 3-year plan for one of these 100 guys that we're trying to plug into. And so now the YIP coordinator, instead of being, in my opinion, a glorified babysitter, they have a chance to really get back to the model of what YIP was about, plug into these high-risk guys, and then when they sit down with them, it's a plan. They have a life plan. So now that guy has something that he's supposed to be doing in the course of the next 3 years.
well, it sounds like to me that from when you're a YIP coordinator to now, there's been a devolution. When we talk to them, you call them glorified babysitters, and it doesn't seem like we're reaching the target population, nor we're having a street-based presence that we've had in the past. And I guess I'm hearing you say that this is going to be one of the mechanisms we can put in place to kind of help correct that.
I agree. I think so. And really, because it takes what the YIP coordinators are good at, and those folks are good at doing, they're college educated, so they're good at doing the paperwork. They're good at doing the desk job, and I think that's been the disconnect, because now the YIP, the big homie, brings the young people to the YIP coordinator and puts him in the seat. So his motivation is to make sure that kid is sitting in front of that coordinator, and the coordinator is going to be connected to the resources, because a lot of people in the community don't want to go to the East End. They don't want to go deal with those kids, but they'll deal with a YIP coordinator. And so I want to make the YIP coordinator available to the community, make him plug into resources and people that are here for him, and then the same thing on the other side. If the big homie can connect with that YIP coordinator too, and then somehow have a real system of saying, this is the plan. You want to go to college, this is what we're going to do, and you put the X's and O's in place, and then the big homie is responsible for making sure that happens. And they can speak to that.
How many big homies are we going to have?
Well, the model, we're building a model. And so everybody that wants to be a big homie eventually will have an opportunity to do it if they're willing to come and learn and come and be a part of the process. So right now I have about 4 or 5 guys that have been committing for the last year of their own time. And they've been showing up. I pay them when I can, and when I can't, they show up. They plug into guys. They have about 10 guys that each of them work with. We've incentivized the process so that they're trying to compete against other guys and try to get their guys to the finish line. And so they've been motivated to do it. And if we can create the model, then it can work with pretty much anybody who sees the format. But the YIP coordinator is going to be a key part to it.
So you be location-based, will you have a facility, or will you just kind of roam from area to area?
Well, I have an office, that I have. I have meetings and have trainings in, but really it is about being in the community. So, for instance,
Right.
I want to be able to pop up in any neighborhood,
Right.
and the big homie will have access to young people in that neighborhood. So if I can say there's going to be some tutoring going on, that big homie can say, hey, I got 10 guys that want that tutoring. If I can get somebody to, hey, teach you how to change oil, the big homie can get people over there. So it's really about, I think the model is shifting to where kids are not coming to a program anymore. Most of it is happening online. So we want to be on Snapchat. We want to be popping up videos. And we work on Basecamp now. We can go to Basecamp and pull up what they've been doing over the course of the year. You'll see videos of the same kids that have just been killed. They're on the video doing stuff with the big homies. And so the accountability part, I'm hoping to make that as transparent as possible. So if people want to plug into that, you can go and see it, because they post videos all the time. We got videos of a guy taking a guy to go get a GED. We got videos of guys stopping a fight on the street. Just the real interaction that needs to be happening.
And one last question, Kareem. What's the age, the target age again?
Well, the target age, of course, is 13 to 18, but really, it's 13 to 60. These guys from...
Yeah, I mean, disconnected, it goes from that population identified from 18 to, I think, 24. and YIP program targets 13 to 19. So you have a wide range of disconnected adults and youth in our community that are the source of a lot of criminal activity in our community. Unemployed, underemployed, uneducated, undereducated, and they seem to be those who are just kind of lounging around, hanging around our community, looking for, not necessarily looking for trouble, but not having anything else to look forward to other than what's out there before them. And that's a wide range between 13 and 19 and 18 and 24. So it still seems like there's a gap with respect to disconnected adults and youth.
Okay, so let me say it like this. The big homies, they're responsible for working with those 13 to 18-year-olds, and sometimes the 21. And so they have a team of guys that they engage with already. But the big homies themselves fall into that disconnected category too. So I'm working with them, and they can be anywhere from 18 to, like I said, 45, 50 years old. And that's what's starting to happen. You know, it's like, for instance, that street team that you have already. Those guys are 60 years old. And so they're a connected street team. I want to help those guys so that when they go out and recruit people and talk to people, they have something to do with them. And that's really what it boils down to, just connecting all the resources and plug them into people that want to help.
Inside street team is 60 years old.
I don't know, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, they're not 30. I mean, you done, one of them's done 20 years, another one done 30 years. So
Well, I mean, I believe that we just need to do stuff that's going to be effective and not perfunctory. Just do something to say we're doing something and just put not necessarily the right kind of programming in place. Just put something out there just to say we're doing something. We can say, hey, let's put this, check this off, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and that's not,
Well, I
that's
agree with
wasting
that.
resources.
I agree with
It's
that.
not utilizing our resources to its fullest, and that's most ineffective, offensive, insulting
yeah, I
approach,
agree.
especially when we're losing young people
Yes,
daily.
Definitely. And I'm agreeing with you 100%. Here's what I'd like to say, though, is when Dana and them came to me, I told them, don't come to me until you're desperate. And so really, the model that I've created is based on the fact that we're desperate. We don't have a whole lot of answers, you know, and so really at this point, I'm saying I stand behind my reputation for what I've done, the stuff that we've done over the years, you know, that's really what I'm putting up, you know, and so I'm saying that if we have some other solutions, then let's put them out here. But really, at this point, yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you, Kareem.
Yes, sir.
Kareem, thank you very much for that explanation. You just hit one of the nails on the head, which had to do with the existing street team that Wayne Burt has, those folks that are out there. And I presume you're familiar with our agreements with our house, where we have the Good Grid, which is also working with the Department of Community Corrections. And we're going to be meeting with them here in the very, very near future. I think I got a meeting scheduled, but assuming this contract gets approved, I'd like to go ahead and have you there too, Dana, so if we can arrange that.
Yeah, so think about that. The YIP coordinator becomes the master of the Good Grid. And so when that YIP coordinator is working with the big homie comes in, plug this kid into the Good Grid, and now the Good Grid is working with him. Our house is already doing the training. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
And
They
the
can bring guys
database
that
they
put
have
them in
there
the
in
seat.
terms of opportunities for kids that are disconnected is continuing to grow. It's pretty impressive. So
Yeah, so we just
hopefully
need to
we're going to get
highlight
enough
it.
data in there that we can really start to match people up.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor, since you chimed in, one other point, Bruce or Mayor, how are we coordinating this with our employment efforts? Because the source of a lot of violence is not gang related. It's employment issues.
Right.
It's unemployment and underemployment. So we're talking about engaging them with respect to violence prevention curriculum, conflict resolution curriculum, specific kind of day-to-day activities. How are we connecting them to any kind of employment opportunities in the community? That's the most important thing, I think, for
yeah.
disconnected adults and youth.
And I agree. And so one of the things that I see, for instance, for those what I call the highest of risk, and I categorize them as red. And so those guys, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the primary focus for them is just food, shelter, and safety. And so if we can identify places, a lot of times, it's people that will hire somebody just because I asked them to hire them. And so what I want to do is vet them through the big homies. The big homie's not going to bring me somebody that's not ready for a job. And so he's going to say, yes, this guy's ready. Then I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to take a risk. And then I'll go through my Rolodex and say, here's a job. But more than that, you already have reentry programs. You got summer job people. And problem with the summer jobs is that we put kids in the jobs that's not ready. And so if I can get that guy to come and meet with me over the course of a few months, and I get him to work on a project, get him to prove himself, get him to show that he's worthy of the job, and then send him someplace to where people are going to be open to working with him. And then if that employer is not happy with him, they have somebody that they can come back to and say, okay, let me fix that. And then the big homie who's working with him in the neighborhood, you can't pull the wool over his eyes because he's out there with you. He knows what you're up to. And so it kind of creates, I think, a mentoring, a traditional traditional mentoring model, but it's also a street mentoring model. And that's the piece that's missing. I don't think we're not able to cross the line and get into the streets and get down there and do the stuff that really needs to be done.
I appreciate that, Kareem, and I agree wholeheartedly. And I was just thinking, in particular, the mayor or Bruce, the mayor using the bully pulpit of the mayor's office to help encourage or incentivize employing these disconnected peace. And Bruce, you certainly using your office to incentivize the employment of these young people. And because the city, when we do, we'll see it tonight, we're having a number of contracts here, and I think there are ways we can build in incentives for people to employ these young people that we're talking about, since we claim, we claim public safety is number one in our bucket list. I mean, it's number one. I'm sorry. Public safety is our top priority, but public safety, I don't think necessarily has to be confined or defined within the narrow confines of just more police and bigger jails. You and I know, a lot of us know, that crime strongest where sense of community is weakest, gang is strongest where sense of community is weakest. I think we need to have a paradigm shift with respect to how we address public safety. And it needs to be more around community building, and we'll see some of these issues tonight. So Bruce and Mayor, hopefully you guys use the bullet pulpits of your offices to encourage chamber folks and other business folks in our community to employ some of these disconnected adults and youth. That's
We
all.
want to make that happen. We want to make it where people want to come and get the kids, and that's really kind of what this is about. So,
Thank you, Kareem.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dana. Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
Thank you. And I want to start at the bottom, resolution number 5. If the housing would list those addresses on
Which
West
number?
Third-
Which
number
number?
5.
Number 5.
If you
Ordinance.
list those addresses on 35th Street, just to say 35th, that's not so good. The next thing on number 4, would you name the committee members of this group for the $62,000 that's going to go to UALR to deal with investigations of shooting of incidents? I just wish that could have been in some other area. Number 3, the funding for this project in Ward 3, is there additional monies, or is this just a transfer or change or something of funding that Burkhalter will need to make some changes? And on the number 1, the motion for to accept these minutes, I find that difficult to accept minutes when I haven't read them, so I have a question about that. That's it.
Start at the top. How about number 1? What's your question?
I said I'm concerned that we will be approving it, but I haven't read these
The minutes were sent out.
I don't have any minutes.
They're attached to the,
They're attached to the information that you receive.
Received when and where?
Well,
I don't have any minutes.
this was this was on our website under the agenda.
Get them to me then.
Previously, I don't know, I guess they're probably been up for a week, maybe, I don't know how long. Pardon?
Bruce, how did they come?
Speak to your microphone, please.
By train or plane or what?
well, Director Hendricks, really the same way we send out the agenda every Friday.
I
And
didn't get it. So make sure they get it.
I mean, shouldn't say send out. It's posted online. You get your board of directors memos through email, but we stopped sending a hard copy of the agenda years ago, and so it's just posted online after your agenda meeting. So these
you're
have been, and because we were delayed, I mean, these have been out for 2 to 3 weeks probably.
I don't have them. So let somebody try sending it to me again, okay?
Okay, we'll send it to you.
Well, then you can abstain on that if you would like. The other question you had was on Resolution 3, is that correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Moore, can you
Burkhalter.
answer that question? The contract increase?
Yeah, Mayor, Members Board, this is one of our projects, the bond issue, and we had a not to exceed amount, including contingency, and we still have a little bit more work to do. So because the resolution said not to exceed, I mean, I normally don't bring $5,500 resolutions, but in talking to our city attorney, the language is pretty clear, so that's why it's back before you.
So Tom approved that, huh? Is that
Yes,
what you're
ma'am.
saying?
What I said is you can't spend it until they authorize it because we limited it. So this takes care of that.
So what budget Bruce, where's this money coming from?
This has come out of the street improvement for each ward, that was allocated.
So it won't be deducting nothing from Ward 1, is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
And I think I can handle your question on Resolution 4. This was a grant that we applied for that I have mentioned on previous occasions. It was part of the our Little Rock for Life plan that we've talked about in terms of bringing safety to our city. It's a grant that we received from the Department of Justice, and it allows us to the vehicle to match shell casings to disparate different incidences to try and help us solve certain crimes in the city. And that's what it is. It's called the 2017 Technology Innovation in Public Safety Grant. So it's money that came from the Department of Justice. It was a grant that was pending that we were hoping to get, and we have been successful in receiving it.
Did any other agencies apply for this money other than UAR? So it was just,
Let me ask Captain Terrell to come forward.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Directors, I'm Captain Ty Trail, Commander of the 12th Street Station. With the TIPS grant, when we look for a research partner, several different agencies expressed an interest, but the only one that applied was UALR. or
who were
UA
some of
Little Rock.
those?
UAMS expressed a little bit of interest in it, and then some guy, I think, from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain. Okay, did that handle all of your questions?
Yes.
Very well. Okay, we've had a reading of the resolution. We've had questions and answers. All in favor of passing the consent agenda as amended indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The consent agenda is approved. We can now move on to the ordinances. I have cards on item 20. And item 21.
Those are separate anyway.
What? Well, yeah, we're both of them being held, but which are to be held separately, yeah. So if you'll read the grouped items with the exception of 20 and 21, please. I do not have any cards on 22, so I just want to make that announcement. That was an issue that we'd had in the past.
So do you want to group
Yes.
22? Can we group
Oh,
20?
I'm sorry, it was held separately. I apologize, I see that now. Yeah, we'll keep it separate as well.
Do you want to keep 23 and 24 separate?
So if you'd read the grouped items, items 11 through 19.
An ordinance to accept the Copper Run annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled 10 Candlewood Drive, Longform PCD, located at 10 Candlewood Drive, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled T-Mobile Short Form PDC, located at 12,211 West Markham Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled Highway 10 Storage Center, revised long form PCD, located at 9300 Ferndale Cutoff, Pulaski County, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned development office titled Miracle Development Revised, short form POD, located at 14,923 Cantrell Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Wildwood Place Subdivision, revised long form PDR, located south of Denny Road on Wild Creek Circle, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Gardner Short Form PDR, located at 900 North Polk Street, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned office district titled Rick Short Form POD, located on the south side of Cantrell Road in the 16,900 block of Cantrell Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for other purposes. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with GlaxoSmithKline for a 12-month term effective February 1st, 2018, in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to purchase vaccines pursuant to a program of the Centers for Disease Control to declare an emergency and for the purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
And for the record, I accidentally read 14 and it was deferred. So, okay. An ordinance to accept the Copper Run annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled 10 Candlewood Drive, long form PCD, located at 10 Candlewood Drive. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled T-Mobile, short form PDC, located at 12,211 West Markham Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned development office titled Miracle Development revised short from POD, located at 14,923 Cantrell Road. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Wildwood Place Subdivision, revised long form PDR, located south of Denny Road on Wild Creek Circle. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Gardner short form PDR, located at 900 North Polk Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned office district titled Rick short form POD, located on the south side of Cantrell Road in the 16,900 block of Cantrell Road. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with GlaxoSmithKline for a 12-month term effective February 1st, 2018, in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to purchase vaccines pursuant to a program of the Centers of Disease Control to declare an emergency. Second reading.
And final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place these ordinances on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to accept the Copper Run annexation to add certain lands to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development and establish a planned commercial district titled 10 Candlewood Drive, long form PCD, located at 10 Candlewood Drive. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned commercial district titled T-Mobile, short form PDC, located at 12,211 West Markham Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned development office titled Miracle Development Revised, short form POD, located at 14,923 Cantrell Road. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Wildwood Place Subdivision, revised long form PDR, located south of Denny Road on Wild Creek Circle. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Gardner short form PDR, located at 900 North Polk Street. An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a planned office district titled Rick short form POD, located on the south side of Cantrell Road in the 16,900 block of Cantrell Road. An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to authorize the city manager to enter into agreement with GlaxoSmithKline for a 12-month term effective February 1st, 2018, in an amount not to exceed $40,000 to purchase vaccines pursuant to a program of the Centers for Disease Control to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
Okay, we've had the three readings. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the passage of these? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Director Peck.
Thank you. Just a quick question probably for Jamie on number 12 on the Candlewood Drive project. I was just wondering if there were any objections from people in the Pinnacle Valley area.
Director Peck, there was no registered objectors present. It was placed on consent agenda and approved at the Planning Commission. So no.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, we've had the three readings. All in favor of the passage of the ordinances indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinances have passed. And on the emergency clause on ordinance number 19, all in favor of the passage of the emergency clause indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause has also passed. We can now move on to the separate items, items 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So let's have the first reading on ordinance number 20, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a prime residential district titled Davis, short form PRD, located at 5210 Mableville Pike, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan residential district titled Davis, short form PRD, located at 5210 Mableville Pike, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan residential district titled Davis, short form PRD, located at 5210 Mableville Pike, third and final reading.
Okay, is the applicant here? If you'd come forward, please. And identify yourself and tell us what you would like to have done in this location.
My name is Dino Davis, and we wanted to develop an apartment complex, 12 units, with affordable housing.
Okay. There may be some questions for you after we have some cards that wish to speak against this matter, so I'll give you a chance to come back to the podium at that time if there's anything else you would like to add.
Thank you.
Okay. First card I happen to have is from Pam Adcock. Mrs. Adcock? Welcome.
Evening, Mayor, Board. I just lost my notes. Okay. I am Pam Adcock, and I'm here tonight representing Southwest United for Progress. Mr. Davis and his associate were present and presented their project to the neighborhood associations. The descriptions of the apartments and the landscaping and buffering was discussed. Mr. Davis stated the apartments would not be used for rehabilitation facility housing when asked if there was a possibility. Mr. Davis assured us that the on-site manager would be present 24/7, 365. Members and attendees voted not to support his project due to the following reasons. The possibility that the one-room apartments would eventually revert to rehab facility housing, the close proximity to an elementary school,
Director.
the
Mayor,
amount of
I need to
apartments
interrupt.
that are also
Second.
within the area.
Just a second, Mrs. Adcock.
A concern about a location potentially becoming a rehabilitation center, assuming that it legally does so, is something that this board cannot consider pursuant to the Fair Housing Act.
Okay, well, let's get past that part, Mr. Carpenter, and listen to the rest of it. The close, because that was just one little section out of that whole sentence. It's a major run-on sentence. Give me a minute. The close proximity to the apartments, to the elementary schools, and they felt like there was enough apartments within that area. And the apartments that are there are generating a lot of police calls lately. Let me finish their statement. Said there is too much trouble surrounding the surrounding apartments, and they would rather have single-family homes, which would abut up to existing single-family homes. Southwest respectfully request a recommendation of denial. Should you deny the application, we ask that his statements regarding the on-site manager being there all the time be put in the record and on place. And the other request, Mr. Carpenter, I won't read because it asks for it not to be a rehab eventually. Okay, all right, thank you.
The next card I have is from Stephen Mann.
Thank you, Mr.
Welcome,
Mayor,
Mr. Mann.
City Board. I'm kind of in between the thing there. I like the idea of the area being developed right there because I've seen it. It's ugly, it's nasty in there. But by the same token, we have concerns about just what type of tenants will be in there. And as I said, there's already 2 apartment complexes, just skipping the holler from there. It just doesn't fit well with what we're looking at. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. The next card I have is from Ron Muse.
Mayor, Mr. Moore, and directors, I'm here to reiterate what has been said. I was present at the United for Progress, and when this presentation was made, it was very clear to me that those who live nearest this proposed development were adamantly opposed to it for their own reasons, and those listed here. Thank you.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Mr. Carter, would you please pull up the sketch and the zoning map? Okay, let us see the zoning map first, please. Okay. All around here you have houses. Across the street you have single-family homes. Behind it you have all single-family homes. Down the street from it you have Gower Springs Elementary School. You have a large apartment complex, and over here back to your left you have another large apartment complex. But right there across the street you have a small subdivision called Sunset. And then, of course, behind it you have another housing area and everything. This does not fit into this. You're putting right in the backyards of all those houses apartments. And I just don't think there's a need in the community for this, and I just don't think that's right to put apartments in the back of those homes. This had always been used as a single family. And to the right of there, we have 5201 Mableville Pike. I think it's 5201. That shop has been in the courts, I think it's 7 or 8 years now. And it is right now in the court because it is a repair shop that is in bad condition, and they're having to have completely redo the whole shopping area there. So please don't put this in the back of these homes. I've talked to these people, and they really don't want to look out their back door at a tall apartment complex in the back of their houses. Thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Yes, Mayor. I thought I heard reference to not having a rehab facility in there, but I thought I heard someone make specific reference to these types of people. And I don't know if we have 3-eared people or 4-legged people. What kind of people are we talking about? We're talking about these type of people, Tom. I heard someone make reference. We don't want these type of people, and I'm not sure. Especially since I heard even a presentation and the applicant say they're not going to turn this into a rehab facility. I'm just not understanding that correlation. If Mr. Davis owned a McDonald's, would we be afraid that he's going to put a McDonald's burger joint in there? I'm trying to make this correlation in terms of how we making this assumption, this giant leap, this quantum leap, that because he's doing rehab services, providing substance abuse work in our community, that's automatically going to transfer into a rehab center.
Well, Director Richardson, the point I was trying to make is it doesn't matter if he is.
I agree.
Y'all are not allowed
Right.
to consider that under the Fair Housing Act. One of the speakers made the comment, these type of people, and there was nothing more to identify it, so I don't want to try to make a definition that I don't know exactly what it means. I will tell you that this board has consistently made zoning decisions based upon the quality of life in the neighborhood and the other factors that are set out in your code. And this office has continually told you the factors you can't consider, and we've done so tonight.
Well, I mean, I hear you, Tom, and I think that the point that I think I made a couple of weeks ago is that a lot of things get approved and denied based on misinformation put out there. And some of it is intentional, some of it is unintentional, but a lot of times we vote and act on misinformation, and people come down here and support and or protest items based on misinformation. So I guess that was the point I was trying to, a point of clarity with respect to what's going to go there and what's not going to go there. And in respect to what you said, that they can if they want to, but just a point of clarification, sometimes things are approved or denied up here based on information or misinformation. Sometimes people come out to support, come out to vote against on items, turn me out, based on misinformation.
The application before you now is for a residential housing unit that would be for affordable housing. That's what the applicant has asked.
Thank you, Tom.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
I would like for Mr. Moore to ask Jamie to come to the mic.
Mr. Collins.
If I'm looking at the right item, number 20, the planning commission approved this 7-1.
It was on consent agenda and voted 8-3, 8-4-3 against.
Okay, okay, and you have 1 nay, 7 ayes. The reason why I called you up, I'm sure that you followed the rules of the planning that we have for you to go by as the director, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I want the people to know that's here speaking against it. I don't think we would pay you if you didn't know what you were doing. That's my concern. Thank you. You don't know, is it, Brett?
Director Wyrick, you're next, please.
Mayor, I was at the Southwest United for Progress meeting when this item came up, and we always review these items. We had the applicant there, and he did his presentation, and then we vote on whether or not we want to approve this item or not approve. And the discussion in the room was that they didn't want apartment complexes. They were concerned about the police that had been going to some of the other apartment complexes, and they definitely voted down this particular item. They did not want them, and it was people that live within the area that were against it.
Director Peck, you're recognized, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There were people in the audience waving their hands when Jamie was reporting and giving the vote, so I just wondered if there was.
It was 7-4, 1 against, and 3 absent.
Not 3 against. Okay, thank you.
Director Campuris, you're recognized.
Bruce, can Jamie come back up and give us his thoughts on why he thinks this is appropriate?
When you look at the property, one of the things that factored into the appropriateness of the request or application was the current zoning of the property, in which you'll see the current zoning of the property is split. It is partially C1 zoning at the front. That's a budding Mableville. So they're requesting to change the C1 portion and also change the R2 in the portion in the back. There's, just the lot has 2 different zonings sitting on it and combine it into planned development. The reason that we're supporting this is, one, for the change in, we want a change in use. And as Director Adcock has said, if you look over just to the right of that, that's the auto repair place that has had the vehicles out there and is in the court system. And anytime that you have a commercial use, you would like a buffer between there and a single-family residential. You don't want to put industrial right beside single-family necessarily, or, a commercial use. You would like to buffer it with an office use or screening or that type of scenario. One of the buffers that you'd like to have is you would want to go to a lesser dense or more dense residential before you get to the lesser dense residential. Scott, if you pull up the land use plan for that area, In the land use plan, you'll see that it is designated as RM, or residential medium density, in which we would like that to go to about 12 units per acre. And so that's what we looked at. And then figuring out what their density is, if you go to the site plan, Scott, the number of units that they were proposing with the acreage, they are at 12.6. So if a requirement for residential medium density was at 12, and what they're proposing with both phases to go in was at 12.6, that would meet the requirement. And then the transition from a commercial to a more dense residential or an office to the single-family residential would be desired too, is why we would support this application.
Mark, can I ask you?
Go ahead.
One of the things when I looked at this, tell me what future development, what rights they have under future development in that area.
In the C1?
Well, you see the land use plan. You've got the proposed apartment complex, I guess, in the teal green. Is that right?
That's the first phase, one of the, yes.
Okay. What goes in future development?
That's another building. That's another unit.
Over what period of time?
Well, that would need to be answered by the, applicant. They can come in, and once they do the original developments, this is a planned development, it locks it in as a phased development.
So this is, well, you just really answered my question. Then the first phase, we don't have the opportunity to see if that works before the second phase comes in.
Potentially, it depends on when they bring in the second phase.
But do they have to get your permission to do the second phase?
They would have to apply for a building permit, and then we review it against their approved plan development to see if anything changes. So that's the permission. It would not come back before necessarily this board, because they're applying for a plan development for that deal. If it changes from what we're looking at, then we would.
Okay, thank you.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Yes, can we have the zoning up there, please? The zoning map, please. So you're not putting just one apartment at these buildings, houses, you're putting 2 apartment buildings, and look how close it is to the houses on the back. I don't think any of us would want to live with 2 apartment buildings in our backyard, and that's exactly what this is going to be. Thank you.
Director Hendricks, you're recognized, please.
The reason why I came back to the mic is to understand. Jamie, could you come back? Bruce, would you tell him to come back? Dean's question to you about future stuff, that's not what we're here for. I think we're here to determine whether your agency has already approved this. So that was my concern. He asked you about future. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. We all may be dead before somebody come back up there and apply next door to these apartments. So we want to be fair. So I would say that I just reject that question that Dean asked you about future stuff. I don't think we pay you to look. You have to wait till somebody brings something to you. Tom, am I wrong? I mean, we need to be fair.
Director Hendricks, the planning staff has made a decision, the planning commission's made a decision. The question before you tonight is, do you agree?
I can't hear you. Talk to your mic.
I was trying to avoid being heard.
No, talk to your mic.
The planning department and commission have made their decisions, and the only question before the board tonight is, do you agree?
But you're answering what I said about this, expecting Jamie to say what's coming forward. Jamie doesn't know. I don't think he does, not yet.
Well, planning and zoning always has to try to anticipate what a particular use will do within a particular area.
Yeah, anticipate is one thing and knowing is another.
That's right.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jamie. I don't.
Mayor, if I could make a clarification, and the the future development that you're seeing on that site plan is a future phase. They've explained some of the phasing applications of this development. It's no different than if a subdivision was going to do several phases of an overall development. So the first phase is the building that you see, that one building. And then another phase would be the rehabilitation of the house and the use of that. And then would be like the third phase would be that future development of that building that is shaded, lesser. So it's phased. It's not where they're going to come in and do this entire development. They would come back in and show us every phase of what they do, and then we would compare it to, what come before the board for approval.
Thank you.
Director Hines, you recognize, please.
Jamie, again, how many acres is this site?
This site is 1.9 acres.
So the total site's 1.9 acres. So we'd end up with a total development 24 acres. 24 units. So it'd be a little over 12 units an acre, correct? That's what you were saying.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's what I was saying, and that's the density. That's what we was looking at. And that was one of the factors that we looked for this.
And how tall are these buildings? They're two level? What's the maximum?
They're
height?
two-story. We didn't get in the application, we didn't get like a rendering of the side deal.
So no elevations on what the
No
maximum?
elevations on there, but they
maximum.
would adhere to the, building codes of what that is. They would have to present what their building is at the time.
There's no specification to roof pitch or any of that type of stuff on those buildings? Because you can kind of back into it, two levels, usually about 20 or 22 feet, and then whatever the roof pitch is.
Well, typically, we set the building max at about 30 feet.
Okay.
For that.
That's what I was looking for. All right, thank you.
Director Hancock, you recognize, please.
Don't you usually do those drawings in apartments? With the heights and everything?
Well, the heights is set by the stories and it's set by the code.
And why don't we have them here to look at? On this one, we usually have them in other ones. I can think of lots of ones in West Little Rock that we saw the heights and how it was going to look from the houses and all that.
Well, so some of those sketches is not necessarily a requirement, the elevations to be presented in that scenario. It can be presented in a planned development if they're looking for aesthetics or certain codes or colors that they was looking to put in to get approved and set into planned development.
This application tonight is for all the phases, correct?
The application is for the development to be phased.
Okay, but that's the same. We're looking at the A and B and C. A is the apartment going to be built first, B is the house in the front, and C is the other apartment building.
That's correct, and if phases change, and board has approved other developments commercially, recently out on, Canis, the school out there, that if it changes the phasing, if they choose to do a different phasing than what is approved as far as phase one, then that needs to be reviewed and maybe have to be brought through the planning commission and the board again for
But
approval.
that is someday. Tonight, January the 30th, we're looking at 3 phases on this property.
You're looking at 3 phases, with phase one is what is going to be constructed right now.
Okay, thank you.
Director Fortson, you recognize, please.
Mr. Carter, could you go back to the area zoning site? Don't get comfortable, Jamie. Go back to, yes. Now, as I understand it, you have, in phase one, you've got the apartment building, and then you've got potential for rehab of the residents. And then what you're also proposing is an advanced grading permit. Can you tell me what portion on this map is going to be a part of the advanced grading? And since I don't understand, there's no timetable for development of that, how is that site just to be graded and left there? Are there landscaping requirements for it, et cetera, and for how long?
The advanced grading is not atypical to be asked during when they're doing a development to help, balance the site and do all their grading at once. And then and as far as the phase one, the landscaping, they would have to comply with the landscaping codes, which would be reviewed. As far as the remainder of the site, they would have to comply with our land alteration code for buffering and screening until such time they actually do something, on that phase.
Can you indicate on this map where the portion to be graded for some future use is located?
If Scott, if you'll pull up the site plan, please.
Yeah.
It would, Director Fortson, it would be anywhere that you see the future development or over to the left of the drive that's coming in. And then there's an existing wooded area back there. So the applicant has proposed to grade in that future development area.
Okay, and that's a wooded area, you say, and then down at the bottom of the map is where where Mableville.
Mableville is on the
Right.
bottom of the map. That's correct.
Thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Jamie, you made reference to phases, and do we have any, I think Dean tried to get at this, I'm not sure, do we have any idea what kind of timeline we're looking at for the completion of all phases? And also that, I thought I heard you say that aesthetically, there are no specifications that would require them to have a rendering for us tonight. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct.
So, they're not doing anything out of the norm by not having any renderings because aesthetically they have no specifications that would require that. And we have no idea whatsoever what's the timeline or time frame for the completion of phases. That's something we should wait on the applicant to come back and answer.
Yeah, that would be a question for the applicant on his phases. We have it set in our code, if they do not do, the development for so many years, then it, is not a planned development anymore. So if it doesn't ever happen, we have that criteria. But as long as a planned development comes in and is phased and they do one in that code timeframe, then that locks it all in for future phases. So that would be a question for the applicant. So
thank you.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
Yes, Mr. Moore, I'd like to speak with Mr. Honeywell, please.
John?
Mr. Honeywell, lots of the property over in that area has problems with flooding because there's some drainage back in the back of the other apartments and the back of Gower Springs Elementary School. Have you checked this property out? And I notice there's no detention pond on this, which usually we see a detention pond on this large of tract.
That kind of information will be submitted when we review it for its actual building permit. That's not submitted as part of the a planned residential development. So we don't see that kind of detail at this level of this approval.
Okay.
That's something that will be required as part of the development of the
Will
apartment
it come back
complex.
before us at that time?
No, ma'am. That's reviewed by staff for detention requirements.
Okay. Because I know that we've had lots of trouble with flooding in the back of that property back there. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, that concludes comments and questions from the board. Would the applicant like to respond to anything that was discussed? Please come back to the podium.
Also want to see if I can bring Mr. Quindici. To clarify
Your
some
architect,
things.
yes, we know Quindici.
Okay. You want to go first?
Well, yeah, just wanted, Corinne
If you go to the microphone, please,
My name is
Quindici.
Corinne Daichi. I'm the architect for the project. We developed this plan based on drawings that were submitted to the Planning Commission staff, Planning and Development staff. The comments they got back from the different agencies were related to the height of the building. No way they could know the height without looking at elevations. I know for sure, being that this is not in a sort of historic district, there's no covenants, no ordinances that would relate to the design of the building, but there were a full set of floor plans, roof plans, elevations. And based on those drawings, comments from the different agencies, particularly the fire department, because there's a ruling about 30 feet, something with the fire hydrant, something with the aerial ladder, fire ladder. They could not have known that without reviewing my drawings. Second thing, in terms of the detention, we were asked in the second go-round, we submitted a site plan that would show a potential location for the detention pond. We recognize that there is a need for that, and we indicated that on a site plan, not that site plan. So we felt that we provided sufficient architectural sort of aesthetic information for the Planning Commission, particularly the staff, to realize that this was really a neat sort of modern, affordable apartment complex. So just on those 2 points. I want to add also, you see existing wooded area. It's a forest back there. We think that's a sufficient buffer from the people at the north and also the people on the west. Of course, on the east, there's an apartment on the northeast apartment complex on the northeast, and there's also the commercial zone further to the southeast. So we think we have sufficient natural buffer from any concerns about viewing an apartment complex. It's not as if we're viewing something else. So those are the points I wanted to make about the aesthetics of the site.
Thank you, Gwendiji.
Yes, I wanted to add about the concerns of, and I heard the same thing, these type of people. And I heard about the concerns about the police they've been called to these other apartment complexes. At this time, the structure that's there, it has 5-unit apartments, 1-bedroom apartments. We've had it since 2009. We've never had any incident where the police had to be called or any other type of emergency responder to this location. Also, I want to just reiterate what he was saying. It's the existing wooded area. It would be a buffer between the houses and another set of apartments that's on the north side of the project, and also on I believe it's the west side of it. So all we wanted to do was provide affordable housing for Little Rock residents. I don't know where the other concerns or the come in that. That's basically all I really want to say. The neighborhood is dealing with progression or progress, and that's what we felt that we were bringing to the neighborhood. We was helping it to progress, and maybe even bring the other residents as well as apartments, either bring up to another standard, because we want to do it the right way, and we want to also make it beautiful for its beautification. So that's the only thing. We want affordable housing for Little Rock residents.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Director Hines, you're recognized, please.
This may be for Mr. Quindici. Just curious why you guys didn't submit or bring some presentations of your elevations to us. Does you also, these apartments look like they're about 500 square feet a piece, is that
A
correct?
1-bedroom and studio.
Okay, so.
I prepared a set of floor plans, aesthetic design development type, just conceptual floor plans to scale, and 4 elevations around. Of course, I had to convince my client this is what I think would be best for that site.
Right.
And I did submit that in our initial submittal to the planning development staff. But I understand that if it's not something that's an aesthetic issue with the site, I wouldn't expect them to submit to the whole process. I have more issues with that site plan, which is not the latest site plan. But there are drawings, and if I had known that you wanted to see them, I, of course, would have brought them along. But
just for future reference for you and your clients, anytime you've got neighborhood opposition, the more information you give us, the better.
well, they were also at the Southwest meeting. We had those drawings.
Right, but I wasn't at the Southwest meeting, so I haven't seen them. So
okay.
it's a tough stretch to do that. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, that concludes the items for discussion on this matter. So we can now proceed to a vote on item 20. All in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. There's a roll call requested. Madam Clerk.
Director Hendricks? Director Hendricks?
What?
What are you doing?
You asked for a roll call. What is your vote, please?
I'm voting
Yes.
yes.
Director Richardson? Director Peck? No. I'm sorry? No. Nay. Director Hines? Yes. Director Wright? No. Director Wyrick? No. Director Campuris? Yes. Director Fortson? No. Director Adcock? No. Vice Mayor Webb? No. Director Richardson, would you like to change your vote?
No.
No, you don't want to change it?
No, I don't want to change it.
Okay, then we've got 3 ayes and 6 noes and 1 present.
Thank you all. The ordinance has failed. I see it. Go ahead, Director Hendricks. You're recognized, please.
I just want to share with staff, Jamie, is that, and if I'm out of order, Tom, you can tell me, but I just want to let these people know, how do you think this make a staff person feel when he has laid everything out to you? It's crazy. And I would suggest to the general public, it's an election year, okay?
Where am I? All right, the next item is item 21. Madam Clerk, first reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Everybody's polling place.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Wait,
Second reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, second reading.
Move we suspend the rules and place on third and final
Control
reading.
me, but God.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, third and final reading.
Mayor, you got all the mics on, sir.
He does that in.
I can hear you from up here, that's why, not the mics. All right, we have some cards on this matter as well. Is the applicant present? If you'd come forward, please.
Thank
Welcome.
you. I'm going to be translating for my
All
brother.
right, very well. This is an opportunity for the applicant to make a presentation to us relative to the ordinance and the decision of the Planning Commission. We have to vote on that, so if you would, she has an opportunity to make a presentation.
Una oportunidad de hacer una presentación para poder decir lo que usted quiere hacer. Yes, okay. Bye, diga.
Pues dile que buenas tardes a todos.
Good evening.
Speak up, if you would, into that microphone, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Que lo que quiero hacer es llevar mi trailer al terreno que compramos.
What we would like to do is to relocate the mobile home that we have placed somewhere else.
Porque donde la tengo nos cobran muy caro.
Where we have it, the prices are really high and it's a dangerous place.
No nos dan buenos servicios
We don't have good services there,
y nos han asaltado 2 veces ahí.
and they have robbed us twice.
Entonces, esto por eso quiero la oportunidad.
This is why we would
Que me
like
den
this
permiso de
opportunity,
moverla.
if you could give us the chance to move it. Thank you.
Okay, and you'll have an opportunity to respond after we hear from some cards that we've got in opposition to this application.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the first card I have is from Stephen Mann. You can go ahead and have a seat, please.
Thank you, City Director and Board. I am fully against any mobile home, pre-manufactured home, however you want to label it, being in the city of Little Rock. There's no place for them. There needs to be a house built from the ground up. I'm just not fond of mobile homes, period. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mann.
Mayor Stadler, the board is aware that you can't have just an absolute ban on manufactured homes within the city. And I think the board's also aware that the city went through a Department of Justice investigation on a Fair Housing Act claim because of the allegation that the city simply denies manufactured housing within the city.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. The next card I have is from Pamela Bingham.
Good evening to the board and to the mayor. My name is Pamela Bingham, and I'm the president of the Upper Baseline Windermere Neighborhood Association. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the residents in the Upper Baseline neighborhood. We had a meeting, and it came to a vote where they opposed of the manufactured home being moved into a residential area. We looked at the location where the manufactured home is going to be placed, and it sits right between two single-family homes and across the street from a mobile home park. And just speaking from my personal experience, I lived in Southwest Little Rock. I've been living there for 28 years. And when I moved into my subdivision, Malabry subdivision, I purchased my home based on the fact that I was moving into a single-family home with families where there wasn't any manufactured home that could be placed in there, that it would be where children could come into the community and play, and it wouldn't deteriorate, be a blight to the area. And so we're asking you all, the board, to oppose this manufactured home being placed into the subdivision, into the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bingham. The next card I have is from Nan Howard.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is located in a vacant lot between two residential houses, and it is in a residential section, and therefore we object to a mobile home being put into the residential houses where there's just houses all around it. So we're asking you to not approve this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. My next card is from Pam Adcock.
And Southwest United for Progress always supports the neighborhoods in their decision, and that's why I'm here to let you know that the coalition supports Pam Bingham, Upper Baseline, Windermere. Thank you.
Director Adcock, you're recognized, please.
I believe this mobile home is already in Southwest Little Rock. In Little Rock, we have 25 mobile home parks. 22 of them are in Southwest Little Rock. So we have plenty of mobile home parks. If this home needs to be moved from where it's located, we have 22 mobile home parks that they can move it to. Our mobile home parks, lots of them have vacant lots because the city code officers have removed all the old trailers from these lots. So I think there's plenty of room. This is in a residential. We do not want to start taking vacant lots in Southwest Little Rock and putting one mobile home on them. We want them used for homes being built. This area, Upper Baseline Windermere, is one of the AmeriCorps areas. AmeriCorps is an area that has been selected by the city of Little Rock to have lots of dollars of our taxpayers' money put into it, as well as federal dollars to bring this neighborhood up. And starting to place mobile homes on vacant lots will not help bring this neighborhood up. And we need to give Windermere, Upper Baseline, a chance to get their neighborhoods going again and making positive things. So I would appreciate a vote no on this. And as I said, we've got 22 mobile home parks in Southwest Little Rock where this mobile home can be moved to.
All right, thank you, Director Adcock. That's all the cards I have. Would the applicant like to make any further comment to us?
pues dile que yo abogo a ellos porque pues tengo la necesidad y yo ya compré el terreno.
Well, we already bought the land and we, ¿Qué quiere?
Les pido, por favor, que ellos vean mi caso.
If you can
consideren mi caso.
please consider us moving in, we will apply as soon as we want to move, we want to, add onto the house, we want to apply to make it, conform to like a house. Yeah, we don't have the money to build the house, like, out of the ground, but it's a very small land also for like a big house, and we do know that the land there that we have two houses on the sides, but there is a mobile home on the side of it also. There's a lot of mobile homes and in front of them, so I think that it wouldn't be a big problem if we did move there.
La otra cuestión es que as soon as tenga ella el dinero, puede empezar a juntar dinero. Si ella salva dinero, puede empezar a juntar para construir su casa.
Yeah, and then we are planning on also like saving money to move to build onto the trailer, to the mobile home later on.
Replace it por una casa.
And we do want to replace it for a house as soon as we have the money. But like I said, it's almost, I think, $400 a month to pay where the mobile home is at now, and it's really expensive. So we don't have the money to keep paying it. That's why we want to move.
Very good, okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from any of the board members? Director Hines?
Tom, I always get concerned when you tell us something. So based on what you told us, what are the valid reasons for not allowing this? Is it that we don't feel it conforms with the vicinity? And I guess I question the issue if there's a trailer park in the vicinity and I understand the issue between two single-family site-built homes. So please clarify your comments for us.
Director Hines, the thing I think I was mainly reacting to was the concept of no mobile homes in Little Rock under any circumstances. That type of an approach would not be upheld. What's being asked here is a rezoning from a single-family development to an R7 zoning to allow a mobile home that would not otherwise be allowed in this area. And the applicant's major justification is that's all they can afford right now. What they're asking, though, is that there be a forever rezoning of this area where it could be a manufactured home. And the opponents have made the comment that they're within close proximity to a manufactured home area and that there are other areas there. So the question for you is this an appropriate time to change the zoning of this lot to allow for this particular use? And is that compatible with the overall quality of life within the neighborhood?
Okay. Director Fortson, you're recognized, please.
Like Mr. Collins, can you come forward and Mr. Carter, would you put the area zoning slide up, please, sir? In the write-up, I've gotten away from it now, but in the write-up, you say that, let me find it right here. Staff views the request as reasonable. As noted above, there are a number of other manufactured homes in this immediate residential area. Can you show me which ones in this map are manufactured homes?
It's just, if you look at Coffer Lane right there, the first one that is just adjacent is on the opposite side of Coffer Lane. A little bitty drive that comes in and all those mobile homes, Scott's kind of circling the area right there. Those are manufactured in some mobile home park. It's actually a mobile home park. Also there on Spencer Drive that comes off, that's a park right there. So the proximity is one lot away on the east side and the right-of-way off on the south side. And then there is a residential on the either side of it, but in the area, there is mobile home parks.
Those, use my phraseology now, on either side of the hatched area, those are stick-built homes.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Director Richardson, you're recognized, please.
Call the question, Mayor.
There's a motion to call the question. Is there a second? All in favor of calling the question indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And the question is called. We'll go forward to a vote. All in favor of the passage of ordinance number 21 indicate by saying aye. All opposed, say nay. The nays have it. There's a roll call requested.
Director Hendricks,
Present.
Director Richardson,
Present.
Director Peck, Director Hines, Director Wright, Director Wyrick, Director Campuris. I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Director Fordson. Director Adcock.
No.
Vice Mayor Webb. Director Hendricks, would you like to change your vote? Director Richardson, would you like to change your vote?
No.
No, you don't want to change it.
No, I don't want to
Okay.
change it.
3-6-1.
By a vote of 3 yeses and 6 noes, 1 absence, the ordinance has failed. Thank you all very much. Hopefully you can find a place in one of those mobile home parks that's less expensive and more affordable, and save your money and build a house on this lot that you now own. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to ordinance number 22. First reading of the ordinance, please.
An ordinance to condemn a certain structure located at 2521 Wolf Street in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as a structural fire and health hazard, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structures, to declare an emergency and for other purposes. First reading.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to condemn a certain structure located at 2521 in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as a structural fire and health hazard, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structure, to declare an emergency. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place it on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to condemn a certain structure located at 2521 Wolf Street in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas as a structural fire and health hazard, to provide for summary abatement procedures, to direct city staff to take such action as is necessary to raise and remove said structure, to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
Is the owner of the property here? The owner of the property here. Okay, thank you very much. If there are no questions from the board, let me call for a vote. All in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. And on the emergency clause, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause is also passed. We can now move on to ordinance number 23. Madam Clerk, if you would read first reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impossible and impractical to bid, to authorize the purchase of wetland mitigation credits from the DRI Group, Cadron Creek Mitigation Bank, in an amount not to exceed $39,940.65 for Plantation Pickett Drive drainage improvements and for the purposes. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impossible and impractical to bid, to authorize the purchase of wetland mitigation credits from the DRI Group in the amount not to exceed $39,940.65 for Plantation Pickett drainage improvements. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impossible and impractical to bid, to authorize the purchase of wetland mitigation credits from the DRI Group in amount not to exceed $39,940.65 for plantation picket drainage improvements. Third and final reading.
Okay, all in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. Mr. Carpenter, since this is waiving bidding, does this need an emergency clause as well?
No, that's not necessary.
Very well. All right. We'll move on to ordinance number 24. First reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to ratify the issuance of an emergency sole source purchase order to Sunbelt Fire Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $81,507.25 to repair engine 15 for use by the Little Rock Fire Department, to declare an emergency and for the purposes. First reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on second reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Second reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to ratify the issuance of an emergency sole source purchase order to Sunbelt Fire Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $81,507.25 to repair engine 15 for use by the Little Rock Fire Department, to declare an emergency. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to suspend the rules and place this ordinance on third and final reading. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Third and final reading, please.
An ordinance to declare it impractical and unfeasible to bid, to ratify the issuance of an emergency sole source purchase order to Sunbelt Fire Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $81,507.25 to repair engine 15 for use by the Little Rock Fire Department, to declare an emergency. Third and final reading.
All right, we've had the three readings of the ordinance. All in favor of the passage of the ordinance indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The ordinance is passed. And on the emergency clause, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The emergency clause has also passed. Very good. We can now move on to citizen communication. I've got three cards here that wish to speak about the Little Rock Police Department, and Mr. Rakop, Mr. Johnson, and Mr. Bordeaux. It's pretty general on the topic. It's the specific topic. I know because I've talked to Mr. Johnson and I've seen some emails from Mr. Rakop that there may be some mention of specific individuals. Mr. Carpenter, can you give us a little guidance on this matter? I'm happy to have them speak, but I don't know what the scope of their discussion can contain if it's going to talk about issues dealing with individuals.
Mayor, there was a recent suspension of a sergeant that brought on a great deal of publicity, and that is a process that is underway. There has been an appeal on that process, which now goes before the Civil Service Commission, and so it would be inappropriate for the Board of Directors to consider comments on that topic.
It's improper to consider comments about a specific suspension. Is that what you're saying?
Or the
Okay.
officer involved.
All right. Mr. Rakop, I think your card's first. You're welcome to speak about the police department, but if you would, based on council's advice, avoid any specific reference to any type of personnel suspension appeal issue. Thank you.
Certainly. That's not my topic tonight anyway.
Very good.
Mayor. What I'm here about is the turmoil that we are currently having with the Little Rock Police Department. Last week we learned there's a Department of Justice investigation that's been going on since last summer. We've had repeated issues with recruits and social media, complaints about that. There's issues that I've brought before the chief, before the board, numerous times that we don't get answers from. Every time I file a Freedom of Information Act request, I just about have to threaten to sue the city, and Mr. Carpenter can confirm that. And then now we have an issue where the Little Rock Police are fiddling with our Freedom of Information Act, and they're telling us how they're going to provide the material. And we have a lot of bad things and people say about Little Rock and about Arkansas, but one thing that people can't say is that we have a very poor FOI Act. In fact, we have one of the best Freedom of Information, one of the best open record acts in the country. And that's something that, that we should be proud of and not try to shut down. One of the issues that I brought up for the board is where an officer has accused the mayor and the city manager of stealing funds. They won't answer that question. If I was the mayor and the city manager, I would be concerned about this gentleman saying I've stolen public funds and him being a police officer. This same officer has said that the way we deal with Muslims is genocide. Now, how can you have an officer on the street that might get involved with someone of the Muslim faith and then get into a situation where it's a use of force and this comes out? You know, Mr. Carpenter or Mr. Moore will be writing a big check to another family like they did with Mr. Ellison. These matters are of importance, and this is an election year, and I think the people of the city are looking at all of the board members, the city leadership, to make positive changes and not put us back into the days of FAUBUS and of a split race in our city. And I appreciate you for your time tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Raycop. The next card I have is from Reverend Benny Johnson. Reverend Johnson.
Director Henders, I thank God for you because election time is coming up. We see all the games that's being played with this board. This is a racist board. You vote by race, and then you can't bring up certain issues. Election time coming. I have a Facebook profile of one of our police sergeants that's on our VCAT unit named Sergeant Jennifer Zalingo Freeman. She posted on Facebook about me, talking about my T-shirts being 3 sizes too small, stained up T-shirts. The only thing I do is do vigils. Well, one thing is she's disrespectful, mainly because the majority of homicides are black. And she's disrespectful to the survivors of these homicide victims because these survivors asked me to do these vigils. And then you see the unprofessionalism of her talking about at the end, shut the F up. Now, this should have been disciplined. This was brought to City Manager Bruce Moore attention back in August. And I just understand that she just got a reprimand. When the community and these officers see a reckless police chief like we had Ken Buckner, they're going to follow suit just like him. This man is out of order. How can this man discipline anybody with the way that he acts? This man had 2 wrecks and possibly 3, not cited. He then lost his server revolver, ended up in the possession of a felon. He wasn't disciplined for that. Then he has the audacity to discipline a police officer because she came in contact with a felon, and he in a photo op with a felon, a 2-time convicted felon. Now, it's not do as I say do, or do as I do. He just does anything that he wants to do. And it's time for a change. It's time to get this man packing back to Louisville, Kentucky. I don't care where he go. He might not go back to Louisville, but it's time for him to get out of here. This is ridiculous how this man is doing. He's allowed to do anything that he wants to do. And we need a new form of government. We need it where the mayor be in charge of the city, where it be Stoller, Scott, or Saban. We need a mayor form of government because we got two heads and not making the wrong decision. This police chief is out of control, Bruce, and he should have been gone. And I'm going to tell you, this chief going to cost y'all a lot of money. I'm telling you right now, the city going to get sued. This guy, he got sued in Louisville, Kentucky. He going to cost this city a whole lot of money. And you can't say Reverend Big Ben and tell y'all.
Thank you, Reverend Johnson. The next card I have is from Ian Bordeaux.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
That's Chief Ian Bordeaux of the Houma Choctaw Nation. I also represent the several blogs. We're activists, anti-corruption blogs, and I'm here to inform you all that the anti-corruption movement is a true thing. It's real, it's grassroots, and it's here. We're also here to inform you that we will be tracking the activities of Kenton Tremar Buckner because we're very concerned with the inconsistencies that we see here. And we're also here to inform you that City of Little Rock blog and Corruption Sucks blog will be in contact with each of you from this point forward. And if you ignore us, we'll be documenting that because we want to know what you feel about these things. We feel that there's a concern that there is a buffer. You all have separated your power so that you are buffered from the accountability. You have a city manager that is basically in control of the purse strings, and he's a dictator without accountability to the public. That's a great concern. In cities of this size, you have mayoral individuals that are actually elected by the people and accountable to the people and have the power to be held accountable because they actually have power. You're a symbol. You're here to commercialize and make us feel like we're a big city, but we're not. We're being handled like a podunk mom and pop operation. And it's time for it to stop. In closing, we'll just say, what is a good cop? How can you have a good cop if that good cop shares the same space of a bad cop? How can you have a good cop that witnesses bad things and does nothing? And we'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bordeaux.
Indeed. Chief Bordeaux.
You didn't put that on there, Chief, but I'll recognize it.
I've known you for years.
Okay. We have one more card, Mr. Carpenter. As you know, citizen and public, as you know, the citizen communication is to provide 3 minutes to present an item, a specific item that hasn't been previously brought to the attention of the board. This card has to do with the litigation that the city has pending with the Ethics Commission for declaratory judgment. Is this something that we can hear since this matters in litigation?
Mayor, you typically don't have discussion, public discussion about matters in litigation.
All right. Well then, Mr. Burks, I'll certainly invite you to speak individually with board members if you wish, but are you advising us not to hear from Mr. Burks?
All I'm saying, Mayor, is that you've got a matter in litigation and you all typically don't talk about matters in litigation. You have a matter in litigation and you typically don't talk about matters in litigation. As to this matter in litigation, it has been discussed by the board publicly, and actually the board gave authority to go ahead and file the suit.
Tom, speak up. We want to be fair on this matter, and so I'm just trying to get some direction from you.
Just a second.
You're not recognized, Mr. Burks.
You have a matter in litigation. The board has discussed this matter in the past and actually made a direction at one of its agenda meetings to pursue this litigation. The board typically does not discuss matters in litigation, and our office has been very consistent in saying it should not discuss matters. And therefore, I would recommend that you do not.
Mr. Burks, can you discuss with us without referencing the litigation?
Yes, Mayor. And thank you for your time, and I certainly understand the position the board is in and the advice it just received from the city attorney. I would call the board's attention first to the board's policy on citizen communication. I was joking earlier, this is like the dessert at the end of the meal, fun stuff. But the policy is actually not as you were just advised. The policy has previously been brought to the attention of the board and is not already on the agenda. The substance of my comments are not already on the agenda. Therefore, my comments fall within the citizen communication time. So I think you're improperly advised about me talking about the substance of what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is I would ask the board to place back on the agenda, it's not on the agenda now, so that's why I can talk about it, to place back on the agenda consideration of the lawsuit where this board has personally sued two individual citizens of Little Rock. And the reason I would ask so is I think the ordinance that you passed authorizing your employee, your city attorney to do that lawsuit, what he has filed is not actually what you authorized. You authorized a neutral declaratory judgment action to ask the court to ascertain what the law is, tell us what the law is with the conflict between state campaign finance law and city law. That's not actually what was filed. What was filed was a lawsuit against two individuals that named them personally and asked that they be fined. Director Compuris, Director Wyrick, I served with your husband. If you had an employee at your businesses that did something that was against your wishes, and in doing so actually called another attorney a coward, as your attorney has done on the record, I think that would be a cause for concern for you to place that back on the agenda and say, let's take another look at this. So that's what I'm asking you to do, is place the lawsuit back on the agenda, because your attorney has not filed a neutral action. He has sued two individuals and asked that they be fined, and that's not a neutral action. That's not what you authorize. I think the solution to this, rather than hear my perspective or different perspectives, the solution is to work on the underlying ordinance, trying to do the right thing. You know, it's always the right time to do the right thing. I think the ordinance is overbroad under the First Amendment. I think you can work on the underlying ordinance. You can have a circuit court take down the whole ordinance and put everybody on the same page, or y'all could work on it, but I think it merits being placed back on the agenda. I've got the utmost respect for you, Mayor, for Vice Mayor. This is not a comment on y'all personally or your previous decision, but I think that decision was an error. I think it's always the right time to do the right thing. Place this suit back on the agenda, have your attorney either file a neutral declaratory judgment action that is not an enforcement action, that doesn't sue individuals personally. That's a campaign action. Any campaign can sue another campaign. Any individual citizen can sue a citizen. That's not what y'all have done. The equivalent of what y'all have done is if the Obama Department of Justice sued the Donald Trump campaign. That is what y'all have done. That's what got filed. So, Mayor, you may disagree. The overwhelming consensus of the legal community that I've talked to, there are over 20 lawyers who have volunteered their time to defend these two citizens. I ask you to place it back on the agenda, work together, work on the underlying ordinance. I think that's solution. And if an employee of yours, Director Campuris or Director Richardson, calls another attorney cowardly in the paper, I think it would be something that you should follow up on. Thank you.
Mr. Carpenter, do you want to explain the nature of the litigation in the party, since that issue has been called into question?
It's been explained numerous times and sometimes doesn't catch, but the only reason that the exploratory committees and the two individuals were listed as defendants in the lawsuit is because they would have an interest in the outcome of the declaration of law. We have not asked for sanctions. We have asked for a ruling that the Arkansas Ethics Commission can hear a matter that deals with the conflict between our ordinance on when campaign funds can be collected and what the statute on exploratory committee says about that time frame. And we have asked for a judgment that the commission has the authority to deal with that and, if appropriate, issue sanctions, because they have said in their own opinions that they don't. They don't have that authority. There's no way they can enforce it. We've also asked that the equal protection argument about the Ethics Commission making an application of exploratory committees only to non-incumbents, which is not authorized by statute, has never been before the people, as the basic statute has been, be declared a violation of equal protection. The interesting thing is that neither Mr. Scott, Mr. Sabin, or their exploratory committees have to answer. They can decide that the Attorney General and the city will present the legal arguments and just live with whatever the ruling there is. Unfortunately, the city cannot raise the issue without including them. And that wasn't a decision that was made spuriously. It's because the Arkansas Supreme Court has just made it clear that if a party is not a party to a declaratory judgment action, then whatever is declared doesn't apply to that party. That's the only reason.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to adjourn? There's a second and a motion to adjourn. All right, go right ahead, Director Hendricks. She's on. She's got it on. Her microphone is on.
Still, okay. Tom, the suit that you're talking about, it included my name as having support this issue, and I voted against it. So what can I do? What do I need to do?
It doesn't say you supported the issue. It points out that as a ward member, should you decide to run for re-election, then the time frames for an exploratory committee to collect funds is different from the time frame that the ordinance allows you to collect funds. It's just a factual assertion.
Okay, I heard a motion and a second to
Okay,
adjourn.
second. I'll talk to you, Tom, later, because y'all gonna get my name out
All
of
in
that mess.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Yeah.
We're in adjournment. Thank you.
To hear?